Number 1. The Barn. I used to have these really awful migraine headaches. I began getting them when I was a teenager. I don't get them anymore, but I can still feel how they felt back when I did. It would start with my eyes getting a bit blurry, and then I would get this incredibly sickening pain going throughout my body. It wasn't like a sharp pain, but more of a really general, icky feeling. Most of the time, it felt like if I would move, it would hurt even more, and it did. Even more so. The worse the migraine got, the worse I would feel like I couldn't move, and then I didn't. It was a nightmare. There was a group of guys who hung out after school when I was in high school. I always wanted to be part of their group. They were sort of dark and weird, you know. Nothing really like goth people. They were more like burnouts, but they talked about some creepy stuff like serial killers and stuff. I was sort of interested in that sort of thing when I was younger too. Plus, I knew the guys were also into drinking and some sorts of drugs, and I have to admit that I was curious as to what they might be like as well. I tried making friends with the guys one Friday night. One of them, his name was Jeff, was hanging out in the locker room after gym class. I overheard him talking about going out to the barn with his friends and drinking and smoking after school. But he was going to take a free period and go smoke a joint or something right after class. I had lifted a bottle of vodka from my parents and had it in my bag. I went out behind the school and up to Jeff. We said hi, and he offered me to smoke with him, but I declined. But I did offer him some vodka and we shared it. And the two of us got to talking, and he eventually invited me to the barn with his friends that evening. It all seemed pretty easy, and I was pretty convinced it was probably because I had the vodka that got me invited. Well, Jeff picked me up after school. We drove out into the country. It had actually been much further out into the country than I had ever been before. After a long drive, Jeff pulled us up to an old, lonely farmhouse and barn. There were also a few other cars parked in front, which I figured were his friends. We hung out in the barn for some reason. It was fun, but I had never really drank before. I was doing all this simply for making friends, you know, being in a clique and such, and I had no idea how the alcohol was going to affect me. Well, it affected me heavily, and affected me quickly. I was out so fast, and I have absolutely no memory of how it happened. When I woke up, though, I had one of the worst migraines I had ever had before. I knew I was laying down, and I was in pain, but I couldn't move or open my eyes. I could feel that I was on hay, and that brought my memory back to me that I was in the barn. I could also hear that the group had been talking, too. They were still awake. All of them. I had no way of indicating to them that I was awake, and I was still messed up in the head from the vodka that I had drank earlier. But I also felt like I was not going to fall back asleep, because I was in agonizing pain. All I could do was lay there, unmoving, listening to the others. There wasn't much going on other than normal talk, and it wasn't really too interesting, until I heard something that gave me a bit of a shock. "Your guy here is way out of it," one of the others said to Jeff. "This isn't going to be any fun if he can't react. Try to shake him awake." I felt a hand on me, and I felt who I assumed was Jeff shaking me a little. I was in pain with my eyes closed and completely unable to respond or react in any way. "Nah, he's completely gone," I heard Jeff respond. "If we cut him right now, he probably wouldn't even feel or react in any way." "That sucks," the original guy responded. "Well, we'll just have to try this some other night. Invite him back and do it before he begins drinking." The guys agreed, as I lay there, absolutely terrified that these guys were going to try and hurt me. They talked a bit more about it, but the topic drifted away from me. I dozed off at some point. The very next thing I knew, I woke up in my bedroom at home. I was still in pain, but it was a hangover pain, not migraine pain. When talking to my older brother, He told me that my friends had brought me home and dropped me off. He didn't tell my parents I was wasted, though. I didn't tell him what I had heard. On Monday, Jeff tried being friendly with me. He talked to me at several points during the day. It didn't take him long before he asked me about coming out with them again this coming Friday. I didn't know what to do, so I told him I would have to check with my parents and see if I could. Throughout the week, Jeff kept trying to talk to me, and I did my best to avoid him. I let him know that my parents wanted me home that Friday night. It was a lie, of course. This didn't keep him from asking about other nights, though. It was only through a series of rejections that he finally got the idea and left me alone. Still, I was terrified ever seeing him or any member of his group around, knowing that they had been planning on hurting me on that night, if not doing something much worse.
Working alone is scary. Working alone as an 18-year-old girl at a full-service gas station in a scummy part of my town on the night shift by myself is even worse. Let me tell you a little about this station first off. It was one of the gas stations opened up for a local company, and they were keeping it open for nostalgia's sake. This means that it was much older equipment, like no credit card slots at the gas pump, ancient cash registers, no cameras, etc. And we were to work in this little glass box of a store, of which we sold no product in. This was solely a place where my job was to go outside and pump people's gas. And for the year I worked there, since it was an inconvenient location, I only got about 10 customers per night. I was kinda paid to sit and do my homework, read. This one night in particular was going fine. It was nearly the end of my shift and I was reading an exciting part of my book. Then, I look up from my reading to see a man stumbling towards the glass door. The sight of him makes my heart stop. And I silently thanked my dad for his suggestion to keep the door locked at night. This man is obviously drunk and reaches for the store front and automatically pulls at the door to walk in as he approaches, and grabs at it a few more times when he finds that he cannot open it. I, at this point, stand up and go over to the door, and keeping it friendly, I ask,
"Hello, is there anything I can help you with?"
talking with the door closed, of course. The man replies in a slurred voice,
"I need help. I've lost my wife. She was with me just a moment ago, and I don't know where she has gone."
And he covers his face with his hands and makes the most fake attempt at sobbing I have ever seen, then makes eerie, tearless eye contact with me when I start speaking.
"I'm sorry. Would you like me to call the police for you?"
No. I don't know where my wife is. All I want is something comforting. Can I sit down with you for a while? I just need to talk."
He gives me an intense look and smiles.
"Sir, I will call the police for you if you need. I'm sorry, I really can't help you."
At this point, I am scared shitless. I am keeping my tone controlled and hoping with every fiber of my being he will just go away and not try to break in. I have a knife in my pocket, and I'm wondering to myself if I would actually have the nerve to stab him if he came in and I had to protect myself. The man proceeds to plead to let him in. I firmly say no, and after a few moments, he goes off still muttering about losing his wife, casting glances back at me the whole walk back to the street. I then call my parents and have them come down immediately to watch out for me as I count money to cash out. I have a lot of weird stories stem from this job, but this time, I think I felt most in danger.
Number 3. Drive-thru. In my early 20s, I was a manager at a fast food restaurant. During this period of time, I broke up with my girlfriend too, so I had a lot of evenings to myself, and not a lot to really do. So, I began working all closing shifts. When the store closed down, I let all the employees go, and I would spend an hour or two closing up. I basically took my time too. I guess I felt that I should spend more time in the store being lonely than going home and being lonely there. I don't know. The store closed at midnight. I would often be in there after closing, up until 2 a.m. every now and then. On this particular night, in the summer, I got all the employees out of the store at about 12:15 a.m. and pulled all the register drawers. I went back to the office and actually left the door open, since I was the only person in the restaurant. As a manager, I was used to always wearing a drive-thru headset throughout the day. I rarely remembered to take it off, and as I was sitting there at the desk, I heard a tone, and the drive-thru speaker came on. I figured someone just didn't realize we were closed, so I pushed the talk button and told them we were. There was no response. In fact, I didn't hear anything at all. I tried telling them again that we were closed, and I still didn't get a response. However, the car must have still been sitting there, because if it had drove off, the speaker would turn off. Perplexed, I got up and walked out of the office. At this point, I wasn't too weirded out by anything. I just figured someone may have pulled up to the menu and hadn't rolled their window down yet. I took a peek, out through the drive-thru window, and there wasn't any car there. It was really confusing, mostly because I just had no idea what was going on. I reset the drive-thru, thinking that it was just a malfunction or something, and then I went back into the office to finish work. I was probably about 10 minutes sitting there at the desk. That was when I again heard the tone, and this time it was exactly like it was the previous time. I didn't hear a car or anything, and when I told them that we were closed, I did not get an answer. I walked out to the window again, and like previously, there was no car there. I really couldn't figure out what was going on. A person couldn't walk through the drive-thru, or even go through on a bike and set the speaker off. I figured it had to be some sort of malfunction, and decided to put it out of my mind. I tell you, I was not back in my office for 5 minutes before that drive-thru went off for a third time. And this time I was very irritated. So I decided to go out and see if I could figure out what was wrong with it. I closed up the office door, took my keys and the headset out. I went out the door and began walking over to the drive-thru menu. It was directly at the back of the store, maybe about 20 feet behind the store, but it was on the same side as the door was. As I got closer to the menu, I had to squint a little bit, and when I did, I noticed that there was someone standing by the menu. I paused. I really was not sure what to think or what to do. It wasn't until the person moved towards me a little bit that I decided to get back into the store. As I turned around and went back, I tried to hurry. I got to the door, opened it, and went into the foyer. I glanced back to see if the person outside had followed me. He hadn't. Then, as I was about to lock the door, I heard a noise behind me. Turning around, I saw that there was a person inside the kitchen. I realized then that I must have left the door unlocked when I went out, and someone snuck into the store. That person had a kitchen knife. I really wasn't sure what to do. I couldn't go back to the store. What if the person was dangerous and was going to stab me? And what about the person outside? He could have been dangerous too. This was before everyone had a cell phone, so I had no way to call the cops. The only thing I figured I could do is run across the street to the gas station over there and have the attendant call the police. So I went outside, and that was when I noticed the guy by the drive-thru had moved closer. So I ran across the street as fast as I could, and into the shop. The attendant called the police, but by the time they arrived, the guys were long gone. Since I had closed the door to the office, they were not able to take any money. However, I still got reprimanded for leaving the store with the door unlocked. A few weeks later, the guys were arrested for trying to rob a 7-Eleven. Hey y'all, Killer Orange Cat here. First, I'd like to thank the Grimtale Brothers for helping me out with this video. If you're not already subscribed to their channel, I highly recommend you use the link and subscribe to their channel. They do really good work, and they're coming up really close on 1,000 subscribers. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please feel free to use the subscribe button and bell below, or use the icon of Ichigo the cat that will appear at the end of this closing. If you have an original story you'd like narrated on Killer Orange Cat, please email it to the address in the description. Also, leave me a comment and share this video with someone you think might enjoy it. But the most important thing you can do is to make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where Killer Orange Cat might be hiding. Good night.